Welcome back, Flock Nation, and this is Coach Evans with another episode of Sip to Tally Films. Now, on today's show, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the NFL PAs, All-Pro selections, how many Ravens made it, and who those Ravens are. We're going to give you a little history about the Steelers and Ravens in the postseason. We're going to talk about the crew for the Ravens and Steelers game coming up Saturday, the referee crew. We're going to talk about some comments that Zach Orr made about standing in unison behind him, and my reflection on that. We're also going to talk about the PFF Player of the Year and the offensive line rankings from PFF. So welcome back to Sip to Tally Films. I'm your host, Coach Evans. Let's go. NFLPA released its All-Pro selection today. Now, the NFLPA is the Players Association, and they vote on the All-Pro selections, not to be confused with the AP All-Pro selections, which will come out at a later time. But let's take a look at the NFLPA's All-Pro selection and see who we are. We have 3 Baltimore Ravens, but we're going to briefly hit on some of the other guys, but we'll talk in more detail about the Baltimore Ravens. First team offense All-Pro from the NFLPA, your quarterback, Lamar Jackson. I didn't doubt it. I think he's the best player in the game right now, and definitely the best quarterback, and he's showing it on a week-to-week basis. So to me, that's no shock. The second selection is kind of a shock, but it shouldn't be because of the numbers. And it's Brock Bowers, the rookie from UGA that plays with the Raiders. The next is Jamar Chase, Triple Crown winner for 2024. Awesome receiver. The next receiver that's on this list is his college teammate who potentially could win the Triple Crown at some point, Justin Jefferson. Sliding on down, the All-Pro running back is Saquon Barkley. Understandably, over 2,000 yards rushing, so no quarrels with me from that. The fullback is Kyle Juszczyk. Maybe because he does a little more out the backfield than Ricard, but you can go tit for tat with him and Ricard on that. The offensive line for the All-Pro, Tristan Wirfs, tackle for Tampa Bay Bucks. Joe Thuney, guard for the Chiefs. Penei Sewell, tackle for Detroit Lions. Chris Lindstrom, a guard from Atlanta Falcons. And Creed Humphreys, the center from the Kansas City Chiefs. So offensively, we have one guy. Let's go over to defense. The defensive All-Pro team, first team. Interior D-line, Chris Jones. You'll never hear me argue with that one. Next guy you won't hear me argue with, because I've seen him just dominate on multiple levels, is Jalen Carter. Trey Hendrickson is the edge rusher who led the league in sacks this year. And Myles Garrett is the other edge rusher who, even though Trey led the league in sacks, Myles is the guy that strikes fear in everybody. Another interior defensive line, Dexter Lawrence. They got him as nose tackle. Dexter Lawrence is hard to move, and he probably don't have a boatload of numbers, but you have to double team him, which allows his allows his linebackers to run free. The second Baltimore Raven on the list, Roquan Smith. Early in the season, I felt like Roquan got a lot of tackles but didn't make an impact. But once the decision was made to kind of bag off of Trent and put some of those veterans in there, Malik, Chris Board, Roquan flourished. He was still making tackles the whole time. I thought he wasn't having an impact, but now his impact is felt because of when he's making those tackles at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage, and just doing things, to be disruptive as he is. The next one, arguably the best linebacker in the game, Fred Warner. When you go to free safety, you got Xavier McKinney, who was a free agent. And it's funny, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, there are 2 guys on this list that were Giants last year, Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney. But the GM kept his job. Okay, we'll keep going. Next up, the unicorn, Kyle Hamilton. He's the 3rd Baltimore Raven to make this list, and deservingly so. I don't think there's a better safety in the game of football right now. And I say that with a straight face. There's not a better safety in the game of football right now over Kyle Hamilton. All right, next up, PS2, Pat Surtain 2, and Derek Stingley round out your cornerback for the NFLPA All-Pro team. Now, we got 3 Ravens to make this team. Derek maybe could have made it, but I do understand Saquon being over it. And so if I'm thinking about it, he's probably the only other guy that could potentially be on this list, because maybe you could throw Mark out there with touchdowns, but Brock had an amazing year with terrible quarterback play. So I'm cool with this NFLPA's All-Pro list. Tell me what you think about it in the comment section down below. Next, I want to talk about the Steelers-Ravens rivalry in the playoffs. They've played 4 times in the playoff with the Steelers leading 3-1. Let's kind of go through each game and give you a quick synopsis of what happened and when it was. The first time was January 2002, the AFC divisional round. The Steelers won that game 27-10, and it was led by Cordell Stewart / They jumped out to a big lead, 20-3 at halftime, and they ended up winning the game 27-10. The second time, January 2009, the AFC Championship game. The Steelers won 23-14. We all know what the big play was in that game. That was Troy Polamalu's late interception that he returned for a touchdown. It was a back and forth game with Joe Flacco and all the guys, and with the Steelers and their heyday defensively with Troy P and all those guys. But that interception late from Troy kind of sealed the game. And there's a great YouTube video out there about this game from Brent Coleman. So if you have not seen that, I think on the thumbnail it says "This is War" or something about war or something like that. But it's the offensive line and defensive line lined up against each other, and the words in it. So go check that out if you have not, from Brent Coleman. The third time, January 11th, the AFC divisional round. The Steelers won 31-24. Back and forth game. It was tied 24-24 late in the fourth quarter. Roethlisberger hooked up with the infamous AB to kind of put them ahead, and that was the difference in the game. They won 31-24. And then the last time, 2015 AFC wildcard round, the Ravens won 30-17. Joe was doing his thing. Took an early lead, 20-9, and ended up holding on to that lead. Not adding to that lead in the fourth quarter to go up 30-17. And that was the only time that we've beaten the Steelers in the playoffs. So they've played 4 times. We're 3-1 versus them in the playoffs. We did win the last one, so it's about time to make this a 2-game streak going into this weekend. Now I want to talk about the referee crew for this game, because we know that means a lot in these playoffs. They're headed by Alex Kemp, and his crew called the 4th most penalties in the NFL in 2024. They called 221 penalties in 2024. They've already done a Ravens game in Week 7 versus the Bucks, which is the game I attended in Tampa Bay. We had 7 penalties: roughing the pass on Matabike, defensive holding B. Steve, offensive holding Falele, offensive holding Stanley, offensive holding Makari, pass interference likely, ineligible downfield Linderbaum, defensive offside declined by Kolar. Kolar get defensive offside. Offensive holding Zay Flowers, and illegal contact Nate Wiggins. Those were the 7 penalties they called on the Ravens in that week, and that's just too many penalties, just too many. And not saying that's their fault, but there's too many in general. They're number 1, offensive holding, 59 times. Second thing they call, false start, 31 times. Third is defensive holding, 18. Fourth, delay of game. Can't argue about delay of game. Clock run out. And then the 5th one is defensive pass interference. They've called 12 of those. So you got a crew that's flag happy. So we have to be even more dialed in to hand placement, foot placement, pre-snap, movement, cadence. You got to be tuned in to all those little things. I talked about details earlier or a couple days ago. You got to be tuned in to those fine things, those details. Those are the things that help you win games. You cut down on those penalties. You have a general idea of knowing what these guys like to call, and you work on that. Next, I'm going to talk to you about Zach Orr. Now, we knew at the beginning of the season there would probably be some trials and tribulations with our defense, losing as many defensive players as we lost and getting a new OC, and one with him being as young as he was, never called plays and stuff like that. So we knew there'd be trials and tribulations. We didn't know that the back end of the defense would be as bad as they were. So kudos to the players or whoever decided to back Zach. So let's hear what he said about the guys backing him, probably at one of his down times.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. Like, honestly, they didn't have to do that publicly just for guys doing that. It just made me want to go harder for them. And I think that just kind of shows the unity and the bond and the family type atmosphere that we have here. Because we say it's a family, but a lot of times when things start going bad, you get tested, guys start turning their back on each other, and we never did that. So that's what honestly gave me the confidence that we would be able to get this thing going in the right direction, is because we did stick together and we did have each other's back. But those guys doing that, I can't thank them enough, man, because, shoot, I'm human too. So, hearing that, I need a boost as well at times, and that definitely gave me a boost.
Now, really, you have to think about the situation. He's never called plays before. He lost, some key defensive pieces. So yes, there were going to be some ups and downs. But kudos to Zach and those guys for sticking it out with him. And them, when you coach football, a lot of it's trial and error. When stuff ain't working, you got to find a way to grind it out and fix the problem as fast as you can. And so problems got fixed. Did they get fixed as fast as maybe we as fans wanted them? No. But when you think about the way guys played, and you kind of give some guys grace because of history, so that kind of made it a little longer of a bad defense, so to speak, because they found a crack on the back end. You got Eddie out of there, you got Marcus out of there, brought in Ardarius. Found another crack in the defense with Trent Simpson. You got Trenton out there, you playing Chris Board and Malik in different roles, and they kind of filling the different roles and whatnot. You fix that crack. So like I said, coaching is trial and error. And when guys have produced for you, you kind of give them a little grace. But after a while, you figure out, okay, he's not going to do what I want him to do, whether it be want to or can't. And then you get somebody in there that wants to and can. And that's Ardarius Washington. That's Malik Harrison. That's Chris Board. But I salute to those guys that came out in support of Zach. And I really want to thank Marlon spearheaded that. Marlon has been completely different from a leadership accountability standpoint. When the defense was dog, you know what? Marlon came out and said, hey, we got to be better. We were still winning games, but the defense wasn't worth a flip. And Marlo came out and said, look, we got to get better. We got to do this. We got to do X, Y, Z. Hey, we're going to hold you accountable. If you don't do what we ask you to do, coaches-wise, you need to be up out of there. So I think Marlon kind of spearheaded that, and maybe even Rowe, but the way as vocal as Marlon is, I think Marlon is the guy that say, hey, we got to support our guy. We got to do what it takes to make him look good. And Zach, I'm sure, is a grinder. Young dude, I'm sure he's a grinder. I'm sure he had some sleepless nights, some stressful days. And to hear those guys come out and say those words, I'm pretty sure that gave some level of comfort for Zach. Let's talk about our PFF Offensive Player of the Year. Now, some people take PFF for whatever it is. I like it. I think it serves a purpose. Maybe not all their numbers, but some of their numbers serve a purpose. That's why I kind of go to them every week to see what's what, who's who, and how's how. So knowing that PFF is pretty much a metric site, this is one notch in the Lamar Jackson for the real MVP type deal. He's the Offensive Player of the Year according to PFF. 4,172 passing yards, which we know. 915 rushing yards, which we know, which is a total of over 5,000 yards by himself. 45 total touchdowns. But the one that got me is the 1.4% turnover-worthy play rate. That means he's protecting the ball. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. He's doing everything he can to put the team in position to win games. Your PFF Offensive Player of the Year, Lamar Freaky L. Jackson. And I want to close this out talking about our offensive line. And again, like I said a minute ago, PFF serves a purpose. And they have our offensive line ranked the 9th best offensive line for this 2024 regular season. And they have the best lineup, and this was the lineup for most of the year. Ronnie Stanley, Pat McCarry, Tyler Linderbaum, Dane Farlele, Roger Rosengarten. Let's see why they have them as the 9th best, O-line group. Now, some of us think the O-line is not very good. Some of us think they're okay. Like I heard somebody say, as long as the O-line do just enough, which I thought that was unacceptable. No, you have a job to do. Do your job. Now, but are they the 9th best offensive line? Maybe not. But let's see what they say about our offensive line. It says, after losing 3 players from last year's unit, Baltimore's offensive line was supposed to take a big step back. While it did not necessarily look great from the start of the season, as time went on, the group played better and better. 100% true. I agree with that wholeheartedly. It also goes on to say the Ravens' offensive line produced the 13th ranked 85.8 PFF pass blocking efficiency rate, allowing 145 pressures and just 8 sacks. Now, the reason I put this in there because it kind of goes back to who's playing quarterback. The reason we don't have more sacks is because we have a magician at quarterback. So Lamar makes the offensive line look better. Hence, ninth best offensive line according to PFF. Hence, Falele Pro Bowl alternate. Hence, you know, everything that we got offensive line wise, the rushing wise, it all centers around 8. Everything goes back to 8. It says the best player was Tyler Linderbaum. His 82.5 PFF run blocking grade ranked 4th among centers this season. And we know Tyler Linderbaum is the second best center in the AFC behind Creed. And probably is the 4th best center in the league in general behind, I think, the guy from Detroit and maybe maybe Atlanta or Philly, one of those two. But we have the ninth best ninth best offensive line, period. I want to know if you guys agree or disagree with that. So let me know how you feel about the O-line being ranked ninth in the NFL. Put that down in the comment section and just kind of let me know if you agree, disagree, and why not. And so to sum this thing on up, we talked about the All-Pro selections from the NFL, PA. We talked about some Ravens, Steelers playoff history. Talked about the ref crew for the Ravens Steelers game, which is, by the way, is at 8 p.m. on Amazon Prime Saturday night. Don't forget about the watch party. We will be here. We will be here having a blast. We also talked about Zach Orr and how the players came to his defense, the PFF Player of the Year, and the offensive line rankings for the 2024 season and where the Baltimore Ravens stand. So I appreciate y'all for coming out. If you have not liked the video and you're still here, please hit that like button. Hit the subscribe so you can be notified when the rest of these videos drop, and that bell as well. That will be your notification. So share this wherever you feel it need to be shared. Clip anything you need to be clipped and share it and help the channel grow. I appreciate y'all, man. This is Coach Evans with another episode of Sip to Tally Films. Peace and love, y'all. Enjoy y'all Thursday.